Why don't we go ahead and settle in for some meditation, you guys? Using whichever method you find most effective. Please allow your physical body and your mind to start to settle and rest, to become quiet and still. And when you're ready in your own time, please go ahead and transition into meditation on the inner body. Through this meditation practice, we bring our awareness to the inner body and sensations within the subtle inner body. As a result, our awareness is directed away from physical body. With part of your attention, just become aware of the changes in physical body as you perceive it. For some of us, physical body may no longer be so hard and definitive, no longer so overtly manifest. It may even be that physical body has disappeared, not ceased completely, but just no longer in our field of awareness, the way it typically is during our waking hours. So for the remainder of our meditation, I'd like you to please continue to be the silent observer of sensations within your body. And from time to time, check in with physical body and assess what is really there for physical body. Please now start to deepen your breath as you begin to arise from meditation. Please allow your consciousness to become less absorbed. We dedicate all of the merit from this morning's meditation to world peace. May all beings without exception be permanently and completely freed from all forms of emotional and physical suffering. May all beings soon come to enjoy complete fearlessness, abundance, contentment, and wisdom. Completely fill up your belly and lungs with air, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes and bring your meditation to an end. You guys are hearing me okay? Even though, okay, good. Thank you, Roberta. Even though my camera is kind of streaming, it's not really streaming, it's kind of rattling. It seems like that's kind of a really good example of samsara, trying to get the different pieces to line up the way we want them to, thinking that we'll be able to succeed and then everything will be just as we want it. Previously, the camera kept going off. So to make things perfect, to make things right, I got a new camera. But now the camera doesn't really work as well as the other one when it was working. So it's going to be like our ongoing Monday, Friday reminder of the fact that there is no perfection to be found in samsara. So anyways, we've been talking about the perfection of wisdom, the sixth perfection, the sixth practice of the Bodhisattva. And just to remind you, we were conducting a field trip out at Lolly Toyota, looking for the car, trying to identify the car. And remember, we're out there, and I say we're going through the pointing out instructions, and I invite some brave soul to show me where is the car, point out the car, and Wendy might step forward and confidently declare, placing her hand on the roof of the car. Wendy might confidently declare, "This is the car. Here is the car." And I would say, well, actually, no, what your hand is on is paint. That's actually paint on top of the roof of the car. And Wendy might say, well, if we took the paint away, then there would be primer underneath. And well, that's not really the car either. It's a part of the car, and then get rid of the there's probably a protective seal, and then there's paint, and then there's primer, and then there's steel, right? There's some steel kind of composition. And then below that, there's like what would we call it? There would be like the paneling of the roof on the inside of the car, and then there'd be upholstery and maybe some lights, and all of a sudden roof disappears and car disappears. There are parts, but the parts, each individual part, I'd say, so this primer, Wendy, this is the car? It's like, well, no, not really. It's a part of the car, but it's not the car itself. Why do we go through these pointing out instructions on car? And why does it matter in our seeking ultimate happiness and peace that comes from wisdom? What we do is that we perceive a phenomenon, in this case, car, and we grasp at it as having some sort of fundamental inherent existence that is separate from its parts. Do you see this? This is really, really important. We have been conditioned throughout our entire lives, really, to a kind of what you see is what you get mentality. We think there's a car that exists independently and inherently. We don't go through that sort of cognitive processing. We've just kind of been conditioned into this stupor, quite frankly, where we say, it's a car. You know, it's a car, it exists independently, it's a truly existing car. You know, and then we grasp at it or cling to it as existing that way, separate from its parts, separate from causes, separate from our mind bringing it into existence. And ultimately, that's what's happening there, is our mind just consolidates all of the parts of the car, kind of consolidates it together and just imputes inherently existing car. So it is with everything that we experience: furniture, buildings, body. Body is a really important one, because that's one of the things that we kind of cling to and grasp at most strongly, is body. And I really enjoy going through the pointing out instructions with regard to body. I was doing it this morning, preparing for class. I mean, go through the body and look at, I mean, what under ordinary circumstances, if we weren't having a Dharma talk here, you would be saying, there's Jeff's body. You know, it just is. But when we look deeper at the different parts, there are things like a jaw and teeth and gums and throat, esophagus, breastplate, glutes, tailbone, femurs, Achilles tendon. There are things called toes and cartilage for the toes, and nails, toenails, parts and parts and parts and parts. And with regard to our sort of mantra question, what's really there? Question number one is, what's there? Jeff's body. And we can and will go a little bit deeper into that examination, the examination of that first question, what is there? What we're focusing on right now, the second question, what is really there with regard to this thing that we've decided to label Jeff's body? All we can really find are parts, and parts that have parts. My femur, there's something within the center of my femurs called marrow, and the marrow has bones, and body disappears in its parts. This thing called inherently existing body does not exist. How my teacher likes to say it, how Geshe Kelsang likes to say it. He says, the things that we normally see don't exist. The things that the things that normally appear to us don't exist. In this case, what's appearing to you? Jeff's body, an inherently existing Jeff's body. There is no inherently existing Jeff's body. It's just a projection of your mind. The answer to the question, what is really there? What is really, really, really there? Absence of body. Absence of inherently existing body. That's what's truly there, or an emptiness of body. Yes, Tina.
Sorry. Well, I was thinking about when you look at someone, what do you identify as Jeff? For example, when I look at you, I see more your spirit than I see necessarily your body.
Mm-hmm.
And I tend to identify people by that, even though I tend to focus on the face. And then I was thinking, well, if you covered everyone's head with a hood, you probably wouldn't know who anyone was.
Yeah.
So, I guess my question is, there may be, we might focus on the body, but we also focus on something else when we recognize Jeff as Jeff. And I was wondering if you could comment on that.
Sure. That's a wonderful question. Thank you for that, Tina. It might be that what you are pointing to is kind of identifying with, or what is appearing to us, not just body, but maybe a sense of self, like the self of Jeff, which is comprised of parts, body, spirit, as you say, maybe the clothes I wear, whether I've got a hood covering my face or, other garments of clothing. It's entity called Jeff, which we might refer to as a collection of these different aspects: my energy, my spirit, my body, my style, all parts of Jeff's sense of self. But also when we go to look for that, that's another pointing out instructions exercise. And the most important of all is for each of us individually, what is really there with regard to our sense of self. And the answer is the same, you guys, for all phenomena, whether it's body, whether it is sense of self, or I, or me, or ego. Eckhart Tolle uses the term ego and sense of self interchangeably, as do all Zen practitioners. Not that Eckhart Tolle considers himself to be a Zen practitioner. Furniture, buildings, environment, world. What is really there is an absence of anything that is really there. It's like a mind bender. It is, and this is it. Here's a mantra that I have found to be really effective in helping to understand and experience these teachings on ultimate truth. And these are Buddhist teachings on ultimate truth. It's the first profundity. Form is empty. Here's the mantra that I like to use that really, really helped me. And it started to kind of turn my understanding of emptiness, wisdom realizing emptiness, turned a corner. The fundamentally defining aspect of the thing is that it has no fundamentally defining aspect. It's the absence or emptiness of a fundamentally defining aspect or nature that defines it, that absence. According to the first profundity of Buddhist teachings on wisdom realizing emptiness, its true nature is it's being absent of a true nature. And this is also something that's really, really important, is that emptiness and nothingness are not the same thing. Nothingness is, just like I said, nothing. There is nothing there. With emptiness, what we're saying is that there is a meaningful absence. There's a meaningful absence of an intrinsic, fundamental, inherent aspect. And by realizing that absence of fundamentalness or inherentness, we can free ourselves from being averse to things, being attached to things, craving, all of the different mental forms of suffering that come from grasping at and trying to cling to things as though they exist inherently. Body, self, other, car. It's so trippy. And I'll close here. We're at 9 o'clock or 9:01. Is that we grasp at our sense of self so strongly that it starts to go beyond sense of self into me and mine. Back to Lolly Toyota, I'd make the decision. I'm going to buy this car. I'm going to buy this car that Wendy pointed out. And so I drive it out of Lolly Toyota. I go across the street to Walmart. I go in to buy a new part for the car, maybe some seat covers, another part for my car because it needs more parts. And I come out, and while I'm gone, my paint job has been scratched. Somebody scratched my car, and I experience pain from that. It's an amazing thing. I experience pain when something happens to the car. When we come to see emptiness of car, when we come to see emptiness of self, when we come to see emptiness of mine, that's it. There's no basis for suffering for us to experience. So it's deep stuff, you guys. Hang in there. Please approach it with an open mind. And on Friday, we'll talk about the first question, what is there? And that points to the second profundity on wisdom teachings on emptiness. Thank you, you guys. Have a great week. A week that's comprised of parts, by the way, 7 days and different hours, right? Okay. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome. Bye, Mama-san.